From the Bent Pixel Studios in Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Phone Booth Fighting.
And I'm Frank Mayer.
I am Richard Hunter, and our guest in studio today is legendary mixed martial arts referee Big John McCarthy. Welcome to the studio.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Good to see you. We got to do a little business first before we get down to mixed martial arts talk. First and foremost, Frank, we need to let everybody know that we do this podcast twice a week. It's available absolutely free via iTunes, Stitcher Radio, SoundCloud, Google Play, or wherever you do your podcasting. Do us a favor, click on those 5 stars when you look up Phone Booth Fighting in iTunes. Give us that 5-star rating. It's very helpful to us. And if you're feeling particularly generous, write us a favorable line or two in the review section. That's even more helpful. PhoneBoothFighting.com is the official website. All previously aired and archived episodes are there for you, as well as that Amazon banner. Frank, this is your department. Why do we click through the Amazon banner?
That's one of the easiest ways to help support the show, by going through our website, the Phone Booth Fighting, by clicking on the banner. If you do any of your shopping for your wants and needs on Amazon, a small percentage at no extra cost to you comes back here to us here at the show, as you can see, to help improve.
You'll find it right there on the front of PhoneBoothFighting.com. Also, the official merch store is there. The latest Happy Phone Booth Fighting t-shirt. Where's Big John McCarthy here? I got him hooked up with the 2XL.
The Ouija board one? Or?
No, he got the...
it's got your beautiful face in it.
I knew he'd want the one with your face on it, yeah. So you'll find all of that there. Low T Nation, of course. We need to thank Low T Nation, who sponsors the Phone Booth Fighting podcast. If you're a fella, and I am, and if you're getting up there in age, check. I got to check that
And
box as well. Yeah, you too, John. Okay. Maybe you're not feeling quite as youthful as you used to, then lowtnation.com is worth checking out. It is a free telephone consultation. They're based in the Atlanta, Georgia area, but that doesn't matter. Wherever you are located throughout the United States, Low T Nation can hook you up with a lab in your area. Frank, tell us real quick about the process and how it works.
Yeah, it's easy. You call up Brandon over there at Low T Nation. He'll speak to you personally, give you a quick little interview, assess if you're even a candidate, maybe to help you out. If that's the case, they'll set you up with blood work. It's about the most effort you're going to have to put forth on your part. Once you do that, they have your lab results. They make sure a doctor's able to send to your home every month on schedule. You'll get your medication required to make sure you're feeling good. And I tell everybody this now, especially in the month of January. It's everybody has their New Year's Eve resolutions and they're trying to work hard. But if you don't have the right, compositions going on and you're not firing on all cylinders, you're just, turning your wheels in the mud.
Lowtnation.com is the website, and the phone call and the quick visit to a lab in your area is the only work you're going to have to do outside of your own house. They take it from there. They ship the product right to your doorstep, and could not be easier. We hear from more Phone Booth Fighting listeners each and every week that have gotten on board with the Low T Nation way. So go to lowtnation.com, give them a call, and tell them Frank and Richard sent you. Also, Frank, Freshly.com is, they are the folks that are feeding me on a daily basis, a always fresh, never frozen meal prep site. And, this is one of the modern miracles of the internet. This kind of stuff wasn't available to us even just a few years ago, before the advent of the internet and things arriving at your doorstep because you magically clicked on your computer. But they are now with Freshly.com. Whether you are an old-fashioned carnivore, whether you are a vegetarian or a vegan like myself, you're gluten-free, whatever diet you're following these days, Freshly.com is compatible with all of that. And Frank, I know that you know when time is of a premium, and that means there's going to be not a lot of time for cooking in the kitchen. Having some all-natural ingredients show up already pre-made and dinner being 3 minutes away from being ready is very valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, everybody would eat healthy if you have the time to do so. But not everybody has time to prep your meal inside or to cook and have 2 or 3 hours to get ready. So one of the easiest things in this is that you can have that kind of home-cooked, natural ingredient type meal, have it in 2 or 3 minutes, so you're still eating healthy and not making those decisions to go ahead and go and eat fast food, which we know how that'll end up.
Freshly.com is the website. Here's the best part. They've got a special deal exclusively for Phone Booth Fighting listeners. Enter the promo code PHONEBOOTH, and you're going to save $40 off your first 2 orders. You'll get your first order of 6 meals for $39 if you enter the promo code phone booth. And then when you do it again, you're going to eat those. You're going to want 6 more. Enter that promo code phone booth a second time. And guess what? It's still good. Freshly.com is the website. Let them know that you are a phone booth fighting listener. We appreciate your support. All right, Frank, here we go. Lots to talk about with John McCarthy. I'm just going to throw a few things out there so we make sure to check them all off. First thing, he's joined you over in Bellator now. Why don't you explain that?
He has. In fact, actually, I just realized that I can actually have him come over now and watch me train, maybe give me a few tips. Because in the past, that would have been a huge conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. A little bit of a problem. You know, a little picture post on Instagram, you know, you're like, oh, that's the guy reffing him, and he's helping.
All right.
But, yeah, he's actually the newest addition to the Bellator's commentating team, and now he's going to be a full-time commentator. Still doing the refereeing, hopefully outside of that arena. Still over at ACB. But that being said, I mean, I think it's a phenomenal addition. I've had a couple people come up and ask me how they think John's going to do, and I'm like, fucking awesome. I mean, come on, the guy. Who do you think that I'm sitting there sometimes texting besides you and the wife? But I'll have questions and shit, or I'll wave him over at the fight. It's like, hey, can that happen, or what happens here, or what has happened there? Like, was that right? And, you know, and John is second to nobody when it comes to knowledge of what happens inside the cage, as far as all the ins and outs, the rules, the judging, the reffing. He's the source.
I was thinking about that, John. You know, when you call somebody a legendary referee, case closed when you predate the rules in your sport. Not a lot of referees can say that. Not a lot of people would say
build them up.
Yeah, not a lot of people can say I was a referee in football before they had figured out all the rules.
Before they said no face masking when there was no face masking.
Yeah.
You know, it's so funny because everybody that watches MMA now, they all have their ideas of where it started. And it's really funny that about 50% of them have no clue. You know, like Hoist who? You know, they don't go back that far, and they have no idea how the actual show came about, what occurred. They don't understand. They don't have no idea. They think that basically Dana White started this thing with the Ultimate Fighter, and that's how things came about. Well, you know, there's guys like Frank Mir that were fighting before the Ultimate Fighter, okay? And it always cracks me up when, you know, people ask, well, how did this come about? And I'll tell them, I said, well, this is what happened. And they go, when was that? And you tell them, they go, I didn't even know what was going on back then. And it's like, you know, it's so funny. If you ask a rule, there's rules that are in the, you know, the unified rules today that I came up with back in 1994, then 95, then 96, because a fight would take place and something would happen. I go, man, you can't have that. And I would put in a rule based upon the boss, Bob Meyerowitz, who owned it, allowing it. I would put in the rule and it stayed.
Yeah.
I mean, really, honestly, I would think that probably because of where you came in so early in the sport, there's probably not going to be a referee or anybody else that comes along now and is going to have such an impact on molding what it is. I mean, people are always going to come in and rules are going to tweak here and there, like most recently, the 2 hands down. And guys can come up with stuff like that now, but as far as the majority of what it's been shaped, I mean, we came from when groin shots were legal and you could throw someone over the top of a cage. Yeah. I mean, you had to put in a rule that you couldn't put your finger in an orifice. No orifices.
And that came about why? Because
someone did it.
Someone did it. You know, that's the whole reason.
So it makes a lot of sense then that, and Frank just pointed it out, what a unique benefit it's going to be to have a referee transition to commentator.
Huge.
Because we see it with fighters all the time. I can't actually think of another example, at least on a high-profile level, where this has ever happened before. Can you? Is there somebody I'm not thinking of?
No, not in fighting, actually. You know, when you're talking about like football, the NFL's kind of brought in some old officials to, you know, talk about, you know, calls that are being made and what should be done and what's the right call. Yeah. And is that going to be a catch or is it not? But in fighting, it isn't. And one of the things that happens with a lot of commentators, and, you know, Joe Rogan's he's the big gun, is the color commentator that everyone listens to. When Joe Rogan says something, it's gospel.
Yeah.
It is absolutely. Joe Rogan said it, so it has to be, when a lot of times Joe doesn't know. He just knows, I don't like what I'm seeing. I don't like what's occurring. I don't think that's right, even though he really doesn't know, is it right? Which is the right way forward?
Which actually surprised me because, you know, John does it every year. You know, he has to do a course where everybody comes down. He gets certified as a referee, as judging. And I told you, you know, I missed it this year, but that's a goal of mine. Like, hey, you know what, when he does it, as a commentator and you as a journalist, we should take the course.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, well, shit, Joe's been doing this for a long time. Have you ever take a course? He's like, no. I'm like, why would, and what I think is going to happen is that people now are going to listen to John and go, oh, fuck, he's not just speculating. He's actually saying, explaining what's going on inside the cage. Okay, this is why the referee's doing this right now. This is what's going on. Or what the referee made a mistake. The fighter did this, doesn't understand what's going on. That now can occur where it's no longer just, like I said, Joe making speculations. Like, well, the guy knows what he's actually talking about. It's going to force all the other commentators, myself included. It's like, well, you better take a course so you actually know what the fuck you're talking about. You're not just thinking, I think that shouldn't happen that way.
Now, when is the first card that you're going to call? Do we know yet?
Yeah, the first card that I'm calling is this Saturday coming up, January 20th.
Oh, we're going.
Yes,
Everybody
you are.
will be there. Okay, awesome. So you're going to do color commentating on that with Goldberg, right?
With Mike Goldberg.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. And then tell us about how the whole thing came together, how you got the call. And
Man, honestly, it was, I did not know. I had the UFC here, December 30th was the last show they had for the year.
Yeah.
And I went and officiated that, and I got a call that day from Scott Coker saying, hey, Jimmy Smith is he's going his own way, and we're separating on really good terms, and your name come up. Would you want to come in and do an audition for color commentator with us at Bellator? And I said, I sat there and I said, I think so. Let me talk to my wife real quick, and I'll call you back.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to her, and she was like, yes, this is good for you. Look, she goes, where else would you want to be a color commentator? Where else could you get an opportunity for that? And that's, she's pretty smart. I don't give her enough credit, but it's true when you're looking at it. That job is one that there's not a lot of opportunities to get a job like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was, I called him. I said, I'd love the opportunity. I flew out to, I flew out to Los Angeles on the 4th, and that night I was getting a call saying, hey, man, if you want the job, it's yours.
Am I spacing on any other example of this? Because I'm thinking, we've seen plenty of fighters transition to commentator. We've seen professional broadcasters do it, but when have we ever seen a referee move to
It might
broadcasting?
actually start a new trend.
Yeah, yeah.
No, seriously. Some of the referees that they know, as they get up higher level, good personality.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me. I think that's why you see. Joe Rogan's kind of a throwback. He was never a fighter, but good personality on the X Factor, so he got into it. And then later on, he's learned Fear Factor.
I think X Factor's a singing show.
Is that,
I don't know. I think so.
But he's somebody that has a entertainer's background,
Right.
like comedians and movies, but never has ever stepped into a combat. Never been in a cage. So then you get fighters.
I resemble that remark.
So you have fighters that have actually been there. And, then we have some more insight because then I can sit there and go, this is what he's feeling, this is what he's thinking, and then now even a step further is the referee who actually knows all the rules in the system and been there inside the cage, outside the cage. I think it's a phenomenal idea. I'm surprised actually no one came up with it
done
earlier.
it before, right? Was that something you thought about doing before, John?
Well, yeah, people are going to go back to like 10 years ago. I actually left officiating and went and worked with a company that was in Canada at the time called, what was it called?
Well, it's a bad sign.
Apparently, Fight Network. I'm
okay.
sorry. I'm an
Okay.
idiot.
All right.
But it was totally different circumstances at the time. The reason I was doing it, I was really getting out of a contract thing that I had. I knew that I was going to come back to officiating because that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And it was. I didn't plan this at all. Didn't think about it. It was spur of the moment. Okay, I'll try that audition. And then when I got the opportunity, I really looked at it. And this year, Frank knows because I got hurt. I got hurt really bad with a neck problem. And I'd already had one neck surgery before, and I ended up having two more. So if you look around my neck, it looks like someone tried to cut my head off because I got hurt, and
That's a better story, by the way. Go with that one about when somebody tried to cut your head off.
Exactly.
Earlier in the year.
I got hurt to the point I realized, man, you know what? I'm getting older, and I can't do the things I did in the past, and I don't heal anywhere close to the same. And that made me look at, what? How much longer can you really? I'm one good shot away. When you come in to break up Frank Mir, and he's a big guy, and you try to push them in certain ways and move your body between guys, but he's going after somebody. Look, you get hit a lot. It happens. And sometimes when you're not expecting to get hit a certain way, it tweaks you and stuff. I had one time Court McGee was going to throw a kick, and I put my arm out to stop it so it wouldn't hit the opponent at the end of the round. And I can tell you, it hit my arm, and I caught it and let him down. And no one knew, but my arm was dead for the entire night because just it hit a nerve a certain way, and I'm getting older, and it was like, Jesus Christ, I can hardly feel my hand. It happens. And so I just looked at it and said, you know what? I would rather be the guy that makes the decision. I'm going to walk away now where I'm at, where I'm, I'm not saying I'm the best, but I'm up at the top, and I can make that decision and walk away happy with the career that I've had, or I can wait. And I've seen guys wait, and then they start to tail off, and then people are saying, man, you need to retire, and I didn't want to be that guy.
Do you think now? What kind of how's your mindset working as you're about to make this transition? Obviously, not getting a lot of notice to do it because now there's a lot of where I guess in the past as a top official you needed to be up on rules and things like that. Now you got to be up on fighter records. Now you got to be up on whose wife is pregnant, and you know what I'm saying? Like you got to work some of that.
That's Goldberg stuff. I don't care about the pregnant wives. I care about what happens in that cage for the most part. But the truth is, I didn't, as far as having to do things beforehand as a referee, I watched fights. Mm-hmm. I watched all kinds of fights, and I watched new techniques that guys are doing as far as grappling and even stand up and go to gyms and watch guys, sparring and things like that. But, now I have put in so much work in the backgrounds of every fighter that I'm going to be calling at this show. It's like completely different than anything I've done. And I just look at it, if you want to be successful, you need to put in the work to be successful. And I don't have a problem working hard. I just want to work smart while I go.
No, I didn't. We're good.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was just going straight to you.
Yeah. So I think, sorry, I'm doing a little producing on the fly. I'll just pull back the curtain. I'll explain what happened because we are using, we are at the Bent Pixel Studios. And of course, this is where Forrest Griffin and TJ Lavin take their Anything Goes podcast. And I think for whatever reason, some levels got changed and some things got moved around.
I hear it's got crackly.
Yeah. So we're okay. We're okay. I'm just kind of monitoring as we go. And we're trying out our new producer, Mikey, tonight. So Mikey's over here behind the scenes. So just kind of explaining that to the listeners. Keep an eye on that.
Mikey, you got big eyes. So every time I look over at you, you have that look like it's not going well.
He's also
There's certain looks to it.
Yeah.
You kind of have that look towards like.
Trying to stay focused.
The kitchen's on fire.
I keep saying, I wonder how it's going. He's like.
Well, he's also another heavyweight, which means that I realized when I first got into the studio, I was like, all right, I need everybody out so I can move around the table because it was bad enough once Frank is in here. I'm having to crawl underneath the table and everything. So we've added some size. All right, so very cool. So Friday's going to be the first gig for the color commentary. I mean, now is
you going suit or like nice dress shirt? Like how you because like Goldberg has to wear the suit, but then you got Rogan and somebody's just
what? Look at
what are we going for?
Well, you got to be honest. I got a face for radio, all right, and I understand this. So I can't go the Rogan. I'm just going to wear a shirt. Or Jimmy Smith looked like he was going to skateboard down the way. He just got that cool look. I will be in a suit. It'll be a nice suit. Maybe not a tie. I don't know about that. We'll
open collar was cool. More relaxed.
Open collar might be a little relaxed, but I'll definitely.
All right. How much? Let's just say I might have a little discretionary bonus money in my pocket. All right. How much to get you to show up for the first night wearing that the old school thing you used to wear in the UFC, the kind of the baggy pants and the
Buttafuoco's. That's what I'm calling it. The Buttafuoco's.
That's a good. Yeah, that's a perfect. Yes,
man, all those weightlifters and stuff.
Yeah.
I wore that because I had a friend. His name was Bobby Donnelly, and he had a company, Body Alive, and he asked me to wear it, and I was like, it's not like he paid me, but I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'm doing a friend a favor, and it worked for a long time. And then when it changed over to the Fertitas and stuff, they were like, why are you wearing that? That was a friend of mine, and he's got to think you're not wearing that anymore. Okay. So that was the change of that one.
That'd be a good item for like the MMA Hall of Fame or something. Somebody'd probably like to have that, on the
You know what? I'm telling you right now, I am selling so much memorabilia. In fact, it's going to happen sometime in, I want to say middle of February. They're auctioning it off. I have so much crap. And I have a big old warehouse, that I'm renting a storage thing. I'm like, why am I renting it? Why am I holding on to this stuff? This is ridiculous. So I went through all of them, and I have them from UFC 2. I have the T-shirt to UFC 4 to UFC. Well, it's funny because the UFC 5, 6, and 7 is actually the same shirt. I just kept on adding an additional Roman numeral to it. So, yeah, I've still got them all.
All right, well, put me down for, I will make a bid on the Buttafuoco's.
Okay.
If those go up on the eBay block.
Yeah, that's cool.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you, I actually have the ones that I wore in the thing, and those have gone to someone, but I do have an additional shirt, so I'll get you an old shirt.
Oh, I'm in.
There you go,
Okay,
buddy.
yes, thank you, John. Yeah, absolutely. I might actually at some point actually be able to get that on Joey Buttafuoco. If so, I will get a photo for you,
There you
for
go.
sure. Yeah,
Do you know Joe Buttafuoco?
I do.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
I know, yeah.
That's a game we need to play. Who does Richard not have a tie to?
Well, the funny thing is that because John knows you way better than he does me. The funny dichotomy of all this is that once we start doing all that, he's going to think I'm the seediest guy in the world, and then when the story arcs, he realizes I'm actually the straightest guy in the world. That's right, right, Frank?
I think I've told. Because have I told you? Richard never drank alcohol. He's never touched a drug. Yeah, no, he's the most straight edge guy I know. And the reason why I say that, I'm sure there's other straight edge people out there, but they typically don't look like they're an '80s rocker.
Right. They typically don't know Joey Buttafuoco.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm friends with Ron Jeremy and
There you go.
No.
You're all around, Jeremy.
That's right.
Nice, man.
I like it because by comparison to me, I always seem like the most put together guy in the room. That's what I strive for.
There you go.
Oh yeah, you usually win that one pretty well.
Yeah.
Especially these groups of people you hang out with.
That's it. So cool. So, and then as Frank mentioned at the beginning, refereeing is not completely off the table, or is it? Will you
No.
still be doing some refereeing? How will this work?
Well, this is where.
Not for the UFC.
Yeah, well, that's it. And that's all these people. So you're still going to referee for the UFC? No. Come on. Do you think the UFC would want me if I'm commentating a competitor in Bellator? Yeah, they want me coming in and refereeing their fights. That's not going to happen. But look I used to do a lot of charity stuff. Charity, fights and things like that, and I'll still go do those. And internationally, I can go and do what I want. And if there's a company that wants me to work, I'll go out and still work for them if it's the right thing to do at the right time.
Okay, so that can solve. Now, what about will you? I guess you can't really be doing all the ACB trips now either, too, because
be way more selective.
yeah, because there'll be a lot of scheduling conflicts, I would think, with Bellator and stuff like that. Because that's another thing for people. I know a lot of our listeners have followed ACB because of Frank. They see you turn up on there a lot too, so they were bringing you over to do that.
That was the only thing I was kind of bummed out about. It's usually John and Lana, my travel buddies.
Yeah.
Actually, with the ACB, everyone talks about it. I had a blast doing it. Frank being part of it, we had fun. There's good people involved with it, and that's what, it's. You can ask Frank. You can look at the UFC, and it's when you're a guy that's been around a long time. I was there from the beginning. It was the traveling circus for a long time, and even when he started, because he started right when Lorenzo and Frank Fertitta bought
There's
it.
still only 8 employees.
Exactly. It was small and it was family-like. It wasn't this giant corporate business where everything was now bottom line. What is it? It was different, and I miss a lot of that. And that's what ACB is when you're there. It's back to the traveling circus, and sometimes that traveling circus is fun to be part of.
What do you think about where Bellator is at right now? Because I think they're in a sweet spot in between those two. Clearly, the number 2 promotion with a bullet behind the UFC. But what I see them doing right now is a lot of pieces falling into place. Frank and I have talked about this on the podcast, but for the longest time they had under the radar homegrown talent, guys like Michael Chandler. They had legendary names, but some guys who were past their prime years. They Ken Shamrock, that sort of thing. But then they hit this spot where they started bringing in blue chip free agents. The Phil Davises, Lorenz Larkins, Rory McDonald, Frank Mir. Yeah. But you know what I'm saying? When they started doing that, and now you see the way that the shows are being structured. I think a lot of it had to do when Scott Coker came on as well. But this heavyweight tournament that's right. It just seems like there's a lot of things that are happening in the right order.
Well, in my opinion on it, the thing is that what John's alluding to is that the UFC now, look, fighting, we're not a mainstream sport. Anybody goes, oh, we're up there with baseball, football, basketball. Look, we're extremely popular. But we're like a niche sport. We're just our own little thing. It's kind of like, skateboarding. It's its own thing. We have our superstars, but only amongst the fans of that genre.
Yeah.
And that's what we are in the fighting world. So I think if you want to run a company, I think the people that bought the UFC were just a little mistaken on what they were getting their hands on.
The new owners.
Yeah, the new owners. You buy a football team, and I get it. It's turnkey. You could take one guy from one team and move him into another team. A guy who knows marketing for that sport. They understand it on that level. I mean, you can go from baseball, basketball, like those guys, it's much more mainstream and get it. But to do our sport, first and foremost, you have to be a fan of it. And that's what actually, reason why the Fertittas did so well with it.
Yep.
They're fans of the sport. They were going out
Yeah.
to prides. I remember when I worked at Station Casinos in '99, working the front desk. They're like, "Oh, you're into that fighting stuff?" I'm like, yeah. He goes, "Yeah, Lorenzo just went to something in Japan." I'm like, "It's Pride." He goes, "Yeah, they're interested in that shit. They like it. They were taking lessons, jiu-jitsu lessons by John Lewis at JSEC."
Yeah,
They were.
I started that.
Did you?
Oh yeah, I met Lorenzo Fertitta at UFC 21. He came in with Glenn Carano, Flip Homansky, and one other individual that was just part of their thing, had nothing to do. But those were the three that had something to do with the Nevada State Athletic Commission, and they came in because at the time, you got the whole story that even they put out. Oh, when we bought it, we saw they were running from regulation. We were trying to run towards it. Not true. Okay, like we were running towards regulation from UFC 15 because I started getting licensed as an official from UFC 15 because that was the way that the UFC was going to get back on cable. But I met Lorenzo Fertitta. He came to watch it because we were trying to get it licensed, legalized here in Nevada. And
When Lorenzo was on the athletic,
he was on the athletic commission. He, along with Glenn Carano, and that's another story for it. But at the time, he didn't like it. In fact, his biggest thing
such a
was
boxing background.
exactly. And Flip Omansky, who was the medical director for the athletic commission here, he loved it. He was great. Glenn Carano hated it. He thought it was the worst thing ever because he goes, "These guys are trying to hurt each other." And I go, "No, you need to understand. They're competing." I go, "This is what they do." And he goes, "John, you can't tell me." I said, "Let me make this clear." I said, when you play quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys and you drop back in the pocket to pass and Lawrence Taylor is coming around your blind
He's
side.
not just trying to put you down easy.
I said, "Do you think he's just trying to tackle you, or is he trying to put you out of the game?" He
You
goes,
can ask Joe Theismann's leg.
"Well,
about
exactly."
that, right?
And he goes, "That's different." I go, "No, it's not. He's doing what he needs to do to gain a victory."
Putting his helmet
I
on.
go,
Numbers.
"He's going to put you out if he can." I said, "That's what it's legal, and he's going to do it." I go, "It's the same thing. These guys are competing." He hated it, but Lorenzo was like, there were parts of it he liked, and he told me, he goes, "The one thing I really have a problem with is these guys when they're on the ground and they're hitting each other." He goes, I really have a problem with that." And I go, "That's because of the background you come from." I said, "You come from a boxing background. You love boxing." I go, "And it's also what you've been taught over your lifespan is, you don't hit someone on the ground. You don't kick someone when they're down." I go, "You watch John Wayne when he's in the movie." I said, "John Wayne hits a guy, knocks him down. He doesn't go over, jump, mount him, and start, throwing fists and elbows. He grabs him, picks him up, stands him back up, and pops him again and puts him back down." He goes, "Yeah." And I go, "That's not real."
Yeah.
And I said, I told him, I said, "What you need to understand what these guys are doing on the ground." I said, "Look I go, you live in Las Vegas." I have a good friend, John Lewis. He's there. He's got a school. If you have any questions, I'll give you his number. Just call John, and you can go down to his school and you can start to watch, and you'll learn that what these guys are doing is not just rolling on the ground. There's technique to everything they're doing." And the next thing I know, John Lewis says, "Hey, I know he's my student now." And you look and you go, "Oh, that's awesome." And I love the fact, and it's like you said, they were fight people.
Yeah.
And that's what made the difference. You look at who bought the UFC, and nothing wrong with anyone, great people, but they're business people.
Yeah.
And their bottom line is not about who's the greatest fighter. Their bottom line is about dollars.
It's amazing that particularly mixed martial arts. I always told people just a little bit of basic training will change your perspective so much because when I started, I didn't do anything athletic my whole entire life. My extracurricular activity in high school was debate team, right? So the first athlete, don't laugh at that, Mrs. Muir, it's not fun. But the first actual athletic accomplishment I had was when I got a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. I mean, that was as an adult.
And that's an accomplishment.
But it changed so much of the way that I see the sport, cover the sport, talk about it. Doesn't make me an expert, but in terms of just being able to see things differently. And I could see whether you're an athletic commissioner or an owner or anything, how just a little bit of that could really fine tune your
And
perspective.
fans in general, you can't watch a sport. I mean, football, I love watching football. But I understand the basics of the sport, played in high school. I know what second and third, what that means, you know. But if I remember my father coming from Cuba, he told me, he goes, when I first started watching football, man, like they go hike, everybody just rushes into each other, play stops, and they start over. What the hell am I watching? Then through being, acclimated through being here in the country, he learned about it, loves the sport. But no one likes anything if you don't get what's going on.
Yeah.
Once you start understanding, and that's one thing that especially, look, boxing's easy to figure out the basics of. I mean, to understand what's really going on, you need some training. But you could take anybody to a boxing match and go, and like, oh, he's punching him in the face. Okay, he slipped. All right, I get it. You watch MMA, the grappling aspect, you're just sitting there looking at it going, well, they're just laying on each other. Like, no, there's a lot going on.
And it's so funny you say, because there's so many times, refereeing, guys are doing something, and I have, the world, the arena's going, boo, stand him up, and I see what I see where he's going. I know exactly where he's going to go, and I go, 15 more seconds, this fight's going to end, and I'm going to go, you, because you people have no clue, and it drives me crazy. But it's really not their fault, because a lot of the times we don't have people truly explaining it to them the right way. They're sitting there and they're saying, well, he's going for a Kimura. Tell me why the Kimura is going to work in that position and why it's not going to work in that position. That's what you need to start telling people, because when you roll and now oh, he's not going to get that there, or oh, he's in trouble. And that's the difference. And just being part of the sport, if you're going to jiu-jitsu class or you're going to a boxing or a kickboxing, you start to understand the different elements that these guys are doing. The one thing that's really different about MMA is the levels and what people do not understand. Because if it's pro football, you're graduated by, you're a high school football player and you get a scholarship. Well, that means you got to be pretty good. You got a scholarship to play football. And then you go and you play your 4 years of football, and then you get drafted by the NFL, and then you make the team. You have been verified. You've been validated as you are a professional. You can do the same thing in baseball. You can do the same thing in basketball. But in fighting, the difference is we get a lot of people that go to jiu-jitsu class or don't even go to jiu-jitsu class. I'm a tough guy. And they can get licensed by an athletic commission, and they're a pro MMA fighter. Now, they suck. Okay, they can't fight their way out of a wet sack. And then you have the people like Frank Mir. Okay, this is an NFL quality fighter. And people have no idea how good he is. I mean, they just don't get that, man, you don't understand the level that he is compared to what you think is tough and good. And if we could ever get to that point where people truly understood the levels of what some of these guys are at, that would be remarkable.
Well, I always tell the story, but it maybe bears repeating here because of what John brings up. But I, to this day, will still get these phone calls from friends who, they know I work in MMA, journalism, cover it and all that. And I'll get the call. It's usually when Demetrius is fighting in a main event, right?
Oh, yeah.
So all my high school buddies have gotten together for a fight watching party, right? And I'll get the call from my friend who goes, all right, okay, dude, now I got a question. Okay, now I played high school football, okay, right? And I got a question. Now, if I stop drinking beer for the whole summer, okay, now
I know the question already. I get everyone asking me this all the
I'm still in
time.
pretty good shape, okay? You haven't seen me in a few years, but I'm still in pretty good shape. Dude, come on now, be honest. I could kick his ass, right? I could kick his. I'm like, this would go so differently than you see it in your head. I mean, on so many different levels. Like, first of all, you'd never get a hold of him. Like, he'd hit you, you wouldn't know where the punch came from. He'd be gone. He would be standing in front of you. He wouldn't get tired. You'd get tired from swinging and missing. I mean, there's so many things that are not going to happen. It's going to be embarrassing like 4 different ways.
Well, most people don't want to see the truth. And I remember the first time I did. I was 19 years old. Had wrestled in high school, played football and stuff, and did martial arts, stand-up martial arts with my dad for years, right? So I thought I knew how to fight pretty well. I remember the first time I was in a jiu-jitsu class. I had a friend of mine. He goes, I'm doing judo. I'm like, oh, I'm really interested in judo. He goes, why do jiu-jitsu too? I'm like, oh, I'll do both. Sure, let's go. That Hoist Gracie guy, I've always wondered how to do that stuff. So he took me down to a gym here in Vegas. And I remember I rolled with a guy who was a blue belt, and he was running the class because, back in 99,
There wasn't many others.
there wasn't many people doing anything. and it probably weighed 145 pounds. I mean, I graduated high school, I weighed 240, you know? So I'm sitting there, I grab the guy and start throwing him around. I'm like, oh, okay, boom. Next thing I know, that's when I first got introduced to what a triangle was. And I got choked. I mean, the room's closing in. I'm like, you know, I don't know what's going on. And I remember I sat there on the bench afterwards, just kind of like nodding my head going, whoa, this is fucking magic.
Yeah.
I need to learn how to do this.
See, that was the very first time I met Jorge and Gracie through a committee that was part of the LAPD. You know, I was on a martial arts review committee, and I had this incident with this guy who he was part of Huarangdo, and I wrestled in box.
Was that a Mexican boy thing?
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, Korean martial arts.
Oh,
Exactly.
okay.
It's Korean
That's actually
martial arts.
Taekwondo derived off of that.
Yeah.
Sportative, yeah.
And he's doing a demonstration, and he's throwing this kid around, but the kid's letting him do it. And so I was sitting there, and I was sitting on the table, kind of like that, and he picked me out, and he says, excuse me, he says, are you thinking this doesn't work? And I go, no disrespect. I said, he's letting you do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's different when someone doesn't let you do that and is doing
Uncooperative
something
partner.
back.
Mm-hmm.
And so I end up going up there with him, and I get yelled at by my boss. And Jorge and Gracie sits down next to me, and he just starts to ask me, he says, where do you work out? And I go, excuse me? I said, no, I work up here. And so, and he invites me to his gym, and I go. And, you know, he had just opened it up. It was brand new. It had been open for 1 week. It was 1991, somewhere in there. And he goes, you know, would you want to fight? You want to grapple? I said, no, I don't want to fight. Let's grapple, you know. And he pulls his brother Hoist out, and you know, we go from a stand-up, and I pick him up and put him down, and I've got him in a cradle, and I've got an S-grip at the time, right? And I'm just squeezing down. I'm like, oh, this guy's not. I mean, it's a pin in wrestling,
Right.
okay? It ain't crap in that. And he's. I was about 295 at the time or so, and I put a lot of pressure. And he's like, and he's giving his little breathing, and he started to talk to me, and he says, oh, you see Rocky, right? And I was kind of like, he's fucking talking to me. And he goes, he says, everyone think he lose too. And he starts, you know, trying to kick and wiggle, and I'm just holding. Finally, I say, well, I got to do something different. I move to a different thing, and all of a sudden, the legs come up. There goes my arm, and I'm getting arm barred, and you know, and I do the tap, and I go, how the fuck did you do that? And it was that magical. I got to learn that.
Yeah.
You know, and I
I always think it's interesting to see, you know, having done some, you know, after a year or two in jiu-jitsu, it's like you'll see the guys that come in first day who you can tell were good athletes in high school. They had size. They're used to being able to use the size, you know,
Yep.
and in whatever they've tried, they can kind of apply it. And there's always that first day when you see them just kind of head hung low, walking out to the car like, you know, what
I
happened?
just got my ass kicked by a 135-pound person. Right?
That's true. But you know what's interesting is if they don't give up after that first day and they keep coming back,
Oh, they're gonna
it changes their thinking.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, you know, they become, to me, I think they become better people, you know, because they realize that that's not going to get you through life, just, you know, being a big guy. Yeah. Okay, random question for you, John. This is one I was thinking about today. I knew we were going to have you up here. Okay, you know, you had done, gosh, thousands and thousands and thousands of fights. And before the fight, you ask the two people, you know, are you ready, right? And then you say, are you ready, right? And then you tell them to fight. Okay, if you were doing it with Frank and I right now, can you just do the are you ready, and you know, you give them the nod, Frank, like you would do, okay,
So
right?
ask me first.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So, are you ready? Are you ready? That's exactly what
Did
I
you
would have
catch
said.
it?
I would have. I
Okay,
would
see,
have
no, but
that's
that's-
how intuitive you, yeah.
I've seen that happen.
Oh, you have?
I've watched it happen.
Oh, I've seen it happen too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Multiple times.
Well,
I've
I'm
only
impressed.
seen it once.
Oh, I've seen it
I
multiple.
I think, what was I, in Florida? It was the guy, Wes Sims, before I fought Wes Sims.
Yeah.
That's where I first saw
Yeah.
Wes Sims. He was fighting, you know, and at the time I think Wes Sims was like 2-0. He was fighting some guy who was like 6-1. They walk into the cage.
By the way, I'm sorry, I need to explain for people who aren't watching the video. I shook my head no. That's what happened. Okay, go ahead.
So we're sitting there watching the fights. I'm with who's the guy from Dan Lambert,
Uh-huh.
right? So we're there.
Oh,
the
ATT.
the whole ATT team's there. Carla Boyer were watching. They had some of the guys on the show. So, but then here walks Wes Sims. Here his opponent walks in, kind of a chubbier kid, but kind of thick. Looked like he played offensive line, you know. So sitting there, and all of a sudden they're going through the thing, and they do the thing, and all of a sudden the guy's like, what's happening? So then, like, the referee walks over and he's like talking to him in his ear, and we're all like confused, like, what's going on right now? So he's talking, and the kid's taped up, gloved up. I mean, it's that moment where you're ready to fight.
Yeah.
And so then Jamie Levine has to walk in. It's his show.
Jamie Levine.
Right? So he's in there talking, and then he goes to the crowd, go, hey, everybody, we're having a little bit of cold feet. Give the guy a cheer. The guy shakes his head. They have to open the cage and let the guy out. Like, I'm like, that is the worst walk of shame ever. Like, I mean, I've thought about, like, man, there's times you're wrapping your hands as a fighter, and I'm sitting there going, fuck, why do I do this to myself? Why am I here right now?
Well, I'm impressed because the reason I asked was I was thinking, I wonder if he really looks directly at him when he says that, because it's one of those things where it might be like, when you see somebody and you're like, hey, how's it going? I'm not really expecting you to tell me how it's going. I'm expecting you to go, oh, good, how you doing? Like, no, oh my God, let me tell you about
have
this
you ever had that happen to you personally? Like,
Yes.
Tell the story. That's crazy.
Oh, no,
how do you deal with it?
No, the best ones are the ones that I haven't had to deal with. It's other people, because it's when a guy does that and the referee goes, what's the problem? He goes, I don't want to fight. You got to fight. You're in the cage. You got to fight.
Yeah.
And they make them fight. And
I don't
it's
know
like,
if I would do that.
well, there you go. You go.
You say I don't want to fight, but get out, man.
Exactly. You can't do. We don't make people fight. This is something they want to do.
Right. Plus, you asked.
Exactly. the one time
now we're getting rapey. No.
The funny time that happened with me is I did it right, and the guy goes, and I go, you ready? Are you ready? And he goes, and I go, are you ready? And he goes, I just wanted to see what you would do. And God goes, I was like, all right, you got it.
That's good. I wish I would have thought of that. That's funny.
That is impressive. All right, very nice. All right, now John mentioned LAPD earlier. All right, I've been looking forward to having you on. I don't know if Frank told you about this or not, but I heard you do maybe it was Joe Rogan's. I heard you do a podcast where you talked about the OJ Simpson case.
Joey Diaz.
There was Joey Diaz's podcast.
Joey
All right.
Diaz.
Now,
Flavor.
I have interviewed OJ Simpson for probably a total of about 4 hours on 2 different occasions the year before he went to jail. So pretty much as recently as anybody could. I want to bounce some ideas off of you and see what you think. After, Frank, we let everybody know that it is time for a brand new season of the Phone Booth Fighting Celebrity Death Pool League. Are you ready, Frank? The league launched today. Look at the look on John's face. The league launched today.
I'm glad you brought this up. I have a question.
Okay. You've got until a week from Friday as we tape. So that's going to be, 24th. The rosters are going to lock on January 24th. It is open to all Phone Booth Fighting listeners. What you need to do is go to DougStanhopeCelebrityDeathPool.com. Look up Phone Booth Fighting. You'll see our league. Join. It's absolutely free. And this season's winner, like this past season's winner, is going to get a Phone Booth Fighting prize pack. We'll get you a T-shirt, autographed poster, some other stuff in there as well. Congratulations to Washed Up Willie, by the way, who won the league. He beat out. We had over 100 and some odd Phone Booth Fighting listeners play in this league this year, and he bested them all. So the prize pack is on its way. And we may as well take this opportunity to reveal we've got a big road trip coming up.
We're still talking about the death pool.
Yeah.
He's
got a question.
I got a question.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, I'll get to the big announcement, the road trip, a little bit later. Hit me with a question.
So what's our bonus on this season?
What? Oh, musicians.
Musicians.
Yes.
So are you in there?
I could be.
I think we need to go ahead and get you in there.
But here's the thing.
Would it be awkward if I picked you?
No, it'd be
Which
fine.
would kind of suck because
it's all fair.
As far as that,
I'm the definition of a long shot.
Yeah, you're definitely a long shot.
I take real good
Plus,
care
too,
of
I won't
myself.
get any
Doesn't
bonuses.
show, John, I take good care of myself. What's that?
Plus, I'm not going to get any crazy bonuses besides the musician part.
Yeah, that's true. There's a whole,
drug overdose.
John,
how
you have had a lot to do with cultivating the rules of mixed martial arts. The Celebrity Death Pool League is very refined too in all of its point scoring system.
It's dark, man. It's dark.
And each year there's a new bonus category. This year's bonus category is musicians. I don't know if you know the comedian Doug Stanhope, but we play in his league every year, and then we have our own listener league, and they all
basically
all
so we get to pick 20 people that are celebrities. Some people pick some pretty obscure people, but like I picked Fidel Castro, right? So it's their age.
That's a celebrity?
Yeah, he's a politician. He's
a politician, but hey, a celebrity.
Yeah. Well, he's famous.
He could be
famous. Okay.
Celebrity famous.
Infamous. Thank you very much.
Infamous.
Yeah.
And so it's their age minus 100 is what points you get.
Okay.
Right, so not a lot of points there, but because they have the politician bonus, you have like the athlete bonus. They have certain things like I think if you suicide, you get a bonus. They get murdered, drug overdose. These are all like bonuses you get.
However,
so I picked Lindsay Lohan because I figured I was getting all kinds of bonuses.
And you had a good chance.
Yeah, really good chance. I mean, her age minus 100.
Yeah.
Plus
young.
drugs,
Yeah.
prostitution,
Everything.
some kind of chaotic
But
dirty
before
death.
you go thinking we're savages, John, understand that there is some decorum here. Rule number 1, and it's stated right there in print, is that you are not allowed to kill a celebrity on your roster. If you do, you will not be awarded the points.
Well, and
you
you don't
will
get the
not.
prize.
You will not get the prize.
All right.
No, you won't.
If you're caught.
That's right. So, Phone Booth Fighting listeners can sign up for this brand new season. Like I said, Doug Stanhope, CelebrityDeathPool.com. You want to play with us?
You know what's kind of creepy is I'm in there. So I had to. Just one of those reminders of your mortality. You're just like, fuck. I'm happy that I'm popular enough to be in there, but damn, that's morbid.
All right. Breaking news: John McCarthy is going to field a roster. We'll be happy to have you in there. And
Right.
if you're as competitive as Frank is, it'll be a lot of fun.
Oh, you can go on the internet. There's research on this. People put their list. They tell you why. You can go ahead and I go there and I spend like a couple hours going through it.
I've never heard of it. Not
Yeah.
once.
It'll change your life. This time next year, you'll be in a whole different headspace. After
You know what I was going to pick on my card
competing
this year
with
was Bill Clinton. I was really thinking he was during the elections. He was looking.
Wasn't
rough.
looking too good.
No, he was looking bad.
History of heart trouble.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
I think if
although-
Hillary was poisoning him, so she get the sympathy vote.
Although keep this in mind though, because I'll tell you this, especially because last year's bonus was politicians. A lot of people had old presidents. One thing you got to remember about those old presidents: yes, it ages them, but once you're out, you get great quality health care for life. I mean, they you look at like even
Jimmy Carter's still around.
Jimmy Carter can.
Do you know what's sad? I didn't
Jimmy Carter-
realize he was still alive until they did that thing where all the presidents were on stage
Yeah.
just recently. I was like, holy shit, Jimmy Carter's still around?
Not only is he still around, he's out there building houses. He can drive a nail with one swing of a hammer on those Habitat for Humanity.
No kidding.
He's still out there building them. Yeah,
Wow.
he's in
Oh,
pretty
good
good
for him,
shape.
man.
Yeah.
All right, so here's the OJ path I wanted to hit you with. Frank and I've had this conversation about. You're back because you were on LAPD and you dealt with him some, right? This is what I heard you talk about on Joey's podcast.
Yeah, it was I did. I was a fan.
Yeah. Okay. And then, but you guys were in the area of town where you interfaced from time to time.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I didn't interface with him much. I actually had friends that I worked on LAPD
Yeah.
or played football with on LAPD
Okay.
that were good friends with him.
Yeah.
And I ran into him the one time.
Yeah.
And there was an old guy, and I was working Hollywood Patrol at the time, and I got a call of an additional unit. And I go there and I pull up, and there's a Ferrari Testarossa with the license plate said Juice.
Mm-hmm.
And right away I'm thinking that's got to be OJ Simpson. And sure enough, I see OJ Simpson. There's this blonde lady standing there, and Gene Ferrone was the police officer, and he's an old rough guy, and he says, I want you to stand with him. He says, I think I'm going to take him to jail. Gee, man, you can't take OJ Simpson to jail. What the hell's wrong with you? And, I ended up talking him out of it, and they went on their way, and this is back in like 89. So this is, quite a few years before.
Mm-hmm.
But
What was the original why they pulled him over?
they were arguing, and car was moving because they were fighting inside the car.
Oh.
She was hitting him, and he was hitting back, or he said he was trying to block, but it was a domestic thing going on, and at the time, I watched O.J. Simpson when he was running back at USC. I watched his entire career. I loved O.J. Simpson as a fan of the NFL. I just loved who he was and how he conducted himself, and things changed.
Okay, so I knew obviously who he was, football player. I don't know anything about football. Actually, I always tell people the only sport that I actually like is combat sports. So that only leaves me martial arts and politics to follow. So I don't know anything about your more traditional sports, but obviously I knew who he was. But what I have always
Avis
been
commercials, is
interested
that
in,
what you know? No.
yeah, I know from that. But
Hurts.
Run through
But
our
what I've
boards.
always been interested in is the law, because I did debate, mock trial, and stuff like that in high school. So when the trial was going on, I was working in a coffee house, and I worked the day shift, and we had a little
Did
TV
you
on
really?
the what's that? Yeah, it was a
Is
barista.
that code for something More sinister?
No. I was between CD jobs at the time. My band had broken up, and I hadn't started working at a whorehouse yet. So I was at the coffee house. Anyway, so we had a little TV there, and of course the trial was televised, and I watched every second of it. I can actually say I watched every second of it. So I took all this in. I came away, and for the longest time, I was the only person I knew who really made this case. That had I been on that jury, first of all, instinctively, I think it looks very bad for him. But if I were walking through the evidence step by step, I could have made a case, and I think if I had been on the jury, to acquit him based on reasonable doubt.
Really?
Now,
Okay, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
So you have people that are going up on that stand that are medical people,
right.
and they're telling you that his blood was found at the scene.
Mm-hmm.
They're telling you that Ron Goldman's blood was found not only in OJ's house, it was on OJ's socks and in OJ's washing machine.
Right.
Okay? And they're telling you that this blood that belongs to Ron Goldman is no doubt Ron Goldman's blood, and that OJ's blood that's at the scene can only be OJ's blood because it's a 1 in 15 billion chance of it being somebody else's. Now, how many people are on the face of this planet?
At that time, I think
Right.
6 billion.
Right.
Okay, so look, OJ got off for certain reasons. The reason OJ got off, as simple as it can be, you had 4 police officers that were tried for the Rodney King
Mm-hmm.
incident.
Mm-hmm.
And that case was moved from where it should have been actually tried in downtown LA,
Right.
or either there or at Foothill Court in the Valley. It was transferred to Simi Valley. And those officers were acquitted of what was considered, abuse under the color of authority on Rodney King. Now, was that the right verdict?
Right.
There came a certain point where they were wrong. They went too far.
Yeah.
Okay? And when you have the OJ incident, OJ's crime occurs in West LA. There's a West LA court and Santa Monica court. Okay? That's where everybody that commits a crime in those areas, that's where they go to court. But the district attorney for the city of Los Angeles, at the time, he wants to be on TV. And so he moves that trial, Gil Garcetti moves that trial from West LA court to downtown LA.
Right.
And he cut his own throat by doing it because at that point, there were enough African Americans in Los Angeles that were pissed off
Yes.
about this trial where Rodney King was basically, they said, well, those guys aren't guilty.
Mm-hmm.
And so they basically went and said, well, if those guys aren't guilty, I'm going to show you that OJ's not guilty.
Payback.
Oh, well, it is, and community-wise, it was that way. There was giant sections of Americans, Black Americans that were going, hey man, this is called tit for tat, okay, and you can't blame them, okay. I'm not blaming them at all. I can see it.
But see, now here's the interesting thing. So I'm with you on all that. If I had been in the jury room, I would have been maybe arguing for the same verdict, but for entirely different reasons. That's what would have made it very interesting. So like for example, when you bring up blood evidence, absolutely, you've got me convinced at this point until I call Phil Van Adder to the stand, and I say, okay, walk me through how the sample was taken. You took the sample from OJ at police headquarters. Yes,
Chain of custody. Let's
we
talk
did.
about
Right.
this.
Okay. Then I assume you took it up and locked it into evidence. No, I put it in my pocket and I went and walked it around the crime scene. Now, I'm not saying that I think, and I actually had this. Because I had done the interviews with OJ when the whole thing happened with Palace Station and all that. I did television, and I had this debate with Tom Lang, actually, the other detective.
Yeah.
And I said this very thing to him. I said, here's the problem. So now we're looking at blood evidence. Do I think that Phil Van Adder hatched a plot and went to the crime scene and took the vial out and sprinkled blood? No, actually I don't. Here's the problem, though. If my direction from the judge is beyond a reasonable doubt, you handcuffed me, Phil Van Adder, when you did that because you walked the blood around the crime scene. So as I look at that objectively, I'm going to go, okay, I'm going to have to put that
How
evidence
did Ron
aside.
Goldman's blood get in OJ's house?
Okay, now let's talk about that.
Well, please.
Okay,
I
all right.
really want to.
So now we're talking about carpet samples in the Bronco. Remember that? We're talking about the socks
There's all
and
kinds
all
of
the rest of
spots
that kind of
inside the
stuff. Right. Okay. How was the blood evidence logged in the lab? Was protocol followed?
Here's your problem. You want to believe that police officers, who are the worst in the world, because see, police officers actually roll on each other more than any group of people I've ever seen. It's
Really?
it's ridiculous, because a lot of them are those. I have to tell the truth. I have to be upstanding. I have to make sure that I'm saying the exact right thing. You can have doctors, and this doctor knows that doctor, he sucks. That doctor doesn't say a word about it. This guy's doing half job surgery. He doesn't say a word about it. Lawyers don't talk about this lawyer's he's shady. Don't use him. No, they never say anything. Police officers roll on each other over the most minor things. So what you're expecting, there's an old saying, the Hell's Angels used to say that it was, 3 people can tell the truth when 2 of them are dead.
Right.
Okay, can keep a secret when 2 of them are dead. Well, it's no different. You are now saying that not only are the police officers conspiring to put this American who's really well liked up to this point of his life by everyone, black, white, everybody, they're conspiring to illegally put this guy away. Not only are they conspiring, now the crime lab guys who have nothing to do with the police, okay, as far as they're not police officers.
The technicians.
These are technicians that have gone to school, they've gotten their degrees, they've gotten a job, with the city of Los Angeles, and now they're going and doing this job. Basically, all they do is pick up samples and test samples and write reports.
Right.
And they're going to put their lives on the line, and they're going to lose their jobs, and they're going to go to jail to try to conspire to. We want to get OJ.
Well, no, see, I don't know actually, but I don't think there's a conspiracy. What I'm saying
There
is
has to be a
Well,
conspiracy.
no, wait. It's sloppy police work.
Right,
Because
so-
certain mistakes are made that open up reasonable doubt. The fact that I hear what you're saying. You're not saying it was.
Yeah, because the
not as
burden of proof,
for-
I don't actually have to get to conspiracy.
Here-
What I have to do is
'Cause
I have to
at the-
apply
you think
reasonable
guilt.
doubt. And I do.
At
And
the time that they did that was normal procedure for everyone. Now, because of that trial, the steps that some of these people are having to do, these crime labs and all these technicians, it's crazy. They look like they're in biohazard suits now and everything. Why?
Yeah.
Cross-contamination. Oh, you can't have cross. That's all based upon OJ Simpson. That was the first one.
Right. And but I think that's good. In that sense, I think it's good, and here's why. Because I think it makes me wonder how many other cases may have been affected by people who didn't have the money to hire the dream team
Oh,
and
that's
heard
true.
some of those things. Now, what I'm saying is in terms of lab technicians, they weren't following protocol because they had unauthorized people traipsing through there. And let's be honest, probably because the OJ Simpson case was going on, you probably had some looky-loos and things like that.
When
Right?
you're the technician and you have this guy traipsing through, you don't even know who he is.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Well,
Nothing, because you don't even know why he's there. It's like, well, I'm doing my job.
Okay, but what I'm saying is if protocol's being followed, I do know who that is. I mean, if
Protocol
if
as far as how many people are at that crime scene, there's a lot.
yes.
A lot more than you think. And you think you're going to know them?
No,
You're
I'm,
not gonna
I'm
know 'em.
talking about the
They're
guy in
not
the
gonna
lab.
know you.
Well, what do
I'm
they
talking
do
about the
now?
guy in the lab. though.
Still, guys at the labs know each other, but they don't know the officers, and they don't know the detectives, and they don't know all these top level freaking people that are sitting in Parker Center coming through this.
Yeah.
They don't know each other.
Here's the problem, though. If that's the case, and I'm giving you that's the case, we're down at the lab. We're creating our own problem, though, because if we've got that kind of culture going on, the reason that it
Well, it takes a
hasn't
good
been
lawyer
pointed
to
out
go there
before
and
is because
support
somebody
those.
didn't come in with $1 million team
this
to
is
point it
exact-
out, right?
You're absolutely right. You're looking at things had to change because they got slapped in the face
Yes.
by lawyers that went and said, well, hey, is there I'm not saying it happened, but I'm saying there's a possibility.
Yeah.
And with that possibility, I'm saying you guys screwed up. Okay, well, there's a possibility of a lot of things. There's a possibility Frank can step into the Bellator cage, and when he does, Fedor is stepping across from him, and all of a sudden this light falls on him.
Greatest ratings ever.
Possibility.
Highest ratings ever.
Now, is it going to happen? No, it's not going to happen. But you can't say that there's not possibilities. Everyone learned a lot from that. The real problem is you had two people that were brutally, I mean brutally. I was brought the photos of that crime scene because at the time I was in like the martial arts guy they would come to and say, hey, what kind of knife would it take to do this? Okay, and I can tell you certain things about it. There's certain things that you don't forget. Okay, and there's a lot of things on LAPD I will never forget. One of them is looking at those photos and seeing how far, he inflicted the wounds on her.
I mean, cut her throat that only the spine stopped it, right?
Only the vertebrae, and he actually cut into the vertebrae. Okay,
I mean, you got a 220
she
pound
had
professional
she had a wound going from her ear down and across to her collarbone.
I remember that being thought like there were like
Folded her head
nicks
back.
on a bone and stuff. I
Oh, he
think
cut
was part
into
of
the bone.
Yeah.
Ron Goldman is laying there. They asked me, what is this in his eye? And it was, when people die, they don't die in their eyes closed. They die in their, you see it more in movies now. Your eyes are open, same as, you get choked out, your eyes stay open.
The brain just shuts off.
Brain shuts off. And OJ at the time has got a guy staring at him. And he takes the knife and he pokes it into the eye. Like, why is he, is he alive? And so he's got all these little poke marks in his eye.
Oh, shit. I wouldn't even have thought that.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And so I'm looking at him, and it's a tragic scene.
Yeah.
Why did it happen? I have my theories on what occurred, and I have my theories on OJ. And I could be wrong, but OJ played football for a very long time. Okay, you got to figure he played 13 years in the NFL. He played 4 years in of college ball, 2 years of junior college, and 2 years at USC. He played high school. That's a lot of impacts. We have this thing that people are talking about all the time now, chronic traumatic encephalopathy. CTE is something that the NFL is trying to run from because it has all of these people, and they just did they actually just did the one study, and out of 111, brains studied of ex-NFL players, 110 of them have CTE. So what does CTE do? Well, it changes you as a human being. It changes your ability to control your anger. It changes a lot of things. Do you think OJ Simpson might have CTE?
Sure.
He got out of prison here from what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And he was back in the Palms and now blowing up at a bartender. Why? He can't help it. He's got a brain injury. And that brain injury was back in 1994. He had it then. And when things didn't go right for him that day, and his girlfriend broke up with him, and he goes to his daughter's recital, and then he is absolutely shunned by the Brown family and going out to dinner with them and stuff, and he's hurt. And then he goes to her house and he sees someone at her house. It doesn't matter that Ron Goldman was
Just
what he was there
glasses.
for. He's just returning glasses.
I think he was. I don't think they were dating. I think he just talked about being a nice guy.
No, nice guy
Fucking
doing it
days
exactly.
all the time.
Well, and
He
this
blows apart, and this is what happened.
And here's the thing. I don't feel good about my position. I'm
That's
just
okay.
saying. No, I'm just
I
saying
think
that
you told me
if
before. You think that basically it was a guilty man that looked innocent.
yeah, I mean,
Creates
there's
doubt.
it's right. I mean, it's kind of like some of these mistakes are going away. My deceased friend Ralphie May put it this way one time. He said it's like some of this was like framing a guilty man. Like some of these were outs that were provided, and again, it took millions of dollars to suss them out. What I'm saying, and the other thing that makes me mad about Frank hears me complain about this all the time. I can't get picked for a jury. I get called for jury. I've been called for jury duty 6 times. They won't have me. It makes me mad. And you ought to
He wants to
see.
be on a jury so bad.
You ought to see what they take.
Most people
instead.
run from it.
Yeah, you ought to see what they take instead. But I looked at this and I thought, okay, because I'm having the debate within myself as I'm watching all this. I'm going, wait, this evidence is overwhelming. This was before the verdict was read. And I'm totally with you that when I saw the verdict, it's not that there were 12 people thinking like I was thinking. I mean, there was a whole retribution reason for this. But as I was watching it play out, and I just started breaking it down, and every time there would be a major twist, I would go, oh my gosh, they disqualified this whole chunk, but that's okay because they still got this. And then something would come along over here.
The one thing that hasn't really come out, they had so much evidence that they did not even put in there that was slam dunk, but they didn't want to have. Well, this one has a little bit of a backstory. The lady that actually sees OJ speeding away and
Right.
almost runs into her.
Right.
She sold her story to the National Enquirer.
Yep.
So we don't want that coming out. So we're just going to take and push her stuff aside. There was a ton of stuff. Look at when you look at it, there was a lot of things learned from it. What it does show is, unfortunately, like you're saying, and this is what I get out of it. if you don't have money, you can't get a defense team like OJ did. And there's a possibility, with certain circumstances that I do think there's people that are innocent of crimes that get convicted of crimes.
Yeah, for
Okay,
sure.
that's
It does happen.
unfortunately, that's tragic, but there's no system out there that I've ever seen that is actually better than what ours is.
Yeah.
Even though
I agree.
I know there's people that I believe would be innocent that are found guilty, and that's horrible. I mean, it's you look at it, and now with DNA, at least a lot of those are coming out, and they're showing that
We just have to keep
Sure, 20
perfecting our
years ago.
system.
yeah, exactly.
No,
How much time have they've
Yeah.
been put away?
I'm
And
with
you
you.
look and go,
It's
what
the-
is that worth?
It's the best
worst is
system. We just need to keep trying to make it better.
Oh yeah,
There's that
Yeah.
one though, the one that always gives me kind of like the chills. It was in Arizona. This husband, they got him for burning his house, arson.
Right.
Killed his 3 children. He got the death penalty, got put away. So he went to jail. His wife divorced him after seeing the trial. He gets put, to sleep. Like 6 years later, they came out with they realized he was innocent.
Yeah, can't
But-
undo that.
Can't undo it.
Yeah. Well, and that's like you said, is the DNA advances are so important to that. Now, when I mentioned the interviews with OJ, now I was no fan. I mean, I knew who this person was, but more than anything, I had just always wanted to have a shot at interviewing him. And not that I thought I was going to get some tearful confession or anything like that, but
That's
over
not
the
gonna
years,
happen.
no, but over the years, you think of a million questions you would ask somebody. And I'd interviewed Johnny Cochran a number of years before that, and he was, he answered all my questions as well. So the way this OJ interview came about, there were 2 separate occasions, like I said, over that year before he went to jail. And the first one happened pretty randomly. I'm from Dallas. I
This is a
knew
good
of a
question.
place he was going to be. And normally I'd set up interviews much more properly than that, but I knew where he was going to be. And maybe you can attest to this, having the interfacing with him. But I'd always heard that, this guy can turn on the charm, right?
Yeah.
So I knew where he was going to be. Restaurant. I knew the people that worked at the restaurant, and I thought in my mind going in, he's getting hit up for interviews. I'm sure. I'll bet I've got 20 seconds to close the deal on getting this interview. So when I just introduced myself, and my plan was I was going to say I've had Johnny Cochran on my show. He had a positive experience with it. I'd like a chance to talk to you. He totally disarmed all that because the person that was introducing us said, this is Richard Hunter. He sticks out his hand. He goes, Richard Hunter, is your father Bill Hunter? Because I have a good friend named Bill Hunter. Well, no, that's not my father. Hunter's not that uncommon of a name. But it was immediately like, I totally saw what people saw in that. And I said, well, I'd like to interview you, but, I don't want any conditions on the interview. I've got, I think hard-hitting questions to ask you. No problem. Let's do it now. Let's go up to the studio right now. Come on. So we end up, it's like the middle of the late at night. We end up in the studio, we're talking all this kind of stuff. This is what Frank's talking about. I hit him with this hypothetical, all right? And I said, one of these days, I just have to go through hard drives to pull the audio.
You
We'll
need to
actually
pull it up. I
play
wanna
it.
hear this.
Yeah,
This
we'll
is
play
cool.
all this for
This is
our,
really cool shit.
for our listeners. But the hypothetical I asked him was this. I said, all right, OJ. Now, at this point, he'd been out of prison for a number of years. Palace Station had not happened yet, so he's pretty much a free man. So I said, let me give you a hypothetical. I said, I think it'd been 13 years at that point since the murders. And I said, so you're telling me you didn't do these murders, which means that for 13 years, you woke up every day and people have looked at you all day long thinking you committed a crime you didn't commit, right? That's crazy to think about it if that's true. So I said, all right, here's the hypothetical. I said, I can make all of that go away. Tomorrow, you're going to wake up. The entire world is going to look at you differently, okay? But here's the trade-off. Somewhere right now, there's a guy who has no money for a legal defense, and he's innocent, and he's accused of a double murder. He's going to go to prison for the rest of his life or face the death penalty, and he's innocent. But I can change everything for you, right? You will be perceived as completely exonerated. Would you sacrifice him? Now, in my mind, I thought he's going to give me the politically correct answer, which is I would never want anybody to go through what I went through. I'll bear the burden. I bared it for 13 years. I'll continue to bear the burden.
I'll continue to bear it.
I'll do it, right? Without hesitation, he looks at me and he says, it would be terrible if that happened to that young man, but I've got to tell you, I did not commit these murders. I've carried this around for 13 years, and for the sake of me and my children and my family, I've got to clear my name. And I looked at him and I thought to myself, that is either the answer of a truly innocent man or a psychopath. And we're right back to where we started, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, but I can certainly see, and had I seen the civil trial, because in a civil trial, you only have to be 51% certain.
Yeah, but that shows such a lack of empathy for another human being.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like
No,
to sit
I know, but that's what I'm
for
saying.
him,
Yeah.
for somebody to sit there and go, okay, I'd rather you go
Right.
to prison,
Yeah.
and just so that I can be known as innocent, even though I am,
Yeah.
I'm innocent. You can sit there. I mean, I would think, like you said, like
If
I know I'm fucking
if
innocent.
you knew you were innocent,
Yeah.
what does it matter what anyone else says?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even if you are, it's like, fuck, but you're out. You're not in jail.
Yeah.
So just because for your reputation, you'll send an innocent man to go to prison?
Yep.
Holy shit, what kind of monster are you?
I'm with you. And what I was going to say too was with the civil trial, if because that one wasn't televised, but on that one, because you only have to be 51% sure of guilt, I might have been able to get there, depending on what was presented. Plus, he had to testify, and we didn't get to see that. So I've always liked this, and the only people that I've ever found that agree with my position on this are attorneys. I've had attorneys tell me, yeah, that would be by definition reasonable doubt. He said the problem is people on juries don't think this way. They either go, okay, no, I in my gut, I know what happened, or they do what you were talking about, which is I'm still mad about Rodney King. Guess what? He's innocent as well, and that explains my frustration about not being able to get on a jury. One time, John, this is how close I came one time. This is the closest I ever came. Oh, it's pissed me off. I made it to the second day. Because you've been caught.
Second day?
Yeah, you've had to go to a lot of these kinds of things,
I have
right?
testified way too many times
Sure.
in court.
The second day, I made it to the second round, the Elite 8 or whatever, right? No, actually, it was the final 24. So I had a 50-50 shot at getting in. And it was like a child molestation trial. So it was horrible. A bunch of people had already felt like they couldn't do it, so they were excused
Yeah,
and all
because they
that.
started showing pictures of that shit.
All that, right, yeah.
I'm like, oh, we're going to show you. I'm like, no, I'm out, man, I'm out.
But I'm like, I'm going to do my civic duty, and I feel like I'm going to get picked on this one. So they get to the voir dire part, which is, where for kind of no reason they get a certain number of strikes, right? We'll kick him off, we'll kick him off. So the prosecutor says to the remaining 24, of which I'm one, he says, let me ask a question, just show of hands. If an 8-year-old doesn't specifically say no to sexual intercourse, could they be in any way to blame? And one guy raises his hand. So the prosecutor says, okay, we're going to strike him. And then he looks at me and says, we're going to strike him too. I didn't have my hand up, and I had to ride the elevator down in the courthouse with that guy.
That's my ball.
Can you believe it? I was,
I still ask you this. So that guy, he raised his hand saying, I would actually stop him for saying, like, hey, buddy, did you not understand the fucking question?
Yeah,
Hey, hold on. You didn't hear properly, right? You're saying that an 8-year-old doesn't have to say no? Or like,
You got that backwards, right?
Like, yeah,
It just confused you.
It made me so mad. And I asked the attorney later, I said, why did they not pick me? And he said, well, he goes, okay, tell me.
I can tell you why.
Okay, yeah.
It's simple.
Yeah,
It's your look. Look
Okay.
at it. If you want to talk about profiling,
Yes.
you hear all this stuff about profiling. Attorneys profile more than anybody
Mhm.
because they're profiling off of an image.
Right.
It can absolutely be wrong, but they're going to get what is a perception of you based upon your haircut.
Right.
What is the haircut to? What they're saying is you, in a prosecutor's mind, are someone that's going to be hard to get to
you look
look at.
anti-establishment.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And government,
Mhm.
police officer, that, and the, you're going to kind of be against that
Right.
from the very beginning. So you're just trouble for me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're not going to listen to the facts the way they are, just based upon he is profiling the
Sure.
way you're looking, your haircut. You're a musician, you're a rocker. You're
Mhm.
going to be that guy that's going to be not
Yeah.
helpful to me. They're going to get rid of you. Now the defense attorney, trust me, he's wanting you. So you got half of them wanting you, and then half of them are not. And as soon as they get that idea that, oh, this is going to be someone's trouble, they're going to get
Well,
rid of
what they told me was, they told me what you said, but then there was another side to it too, because he said, what were you doing? And I said, well, I'm taking notes. Oh, no. He goes, wait a second. He goes, you're paying attention?
Yeah.
He goes, you're looking like you're interested? He goes, no, they don't want that. because they want somebody who's malleable. Like, you know, whichever way the wind blows, you're going to be able to change their opinion and that sort of thing.
Yeah,
So
they want to influence. Look at their job is to influence. That's what they do.
right.
If there was one thing that I really loved about testifying, is all attorneys think police officers are idiots. So I liked getting in positions where I could make them look bad.
Yeah.
They'd
Yeah.
ask a question and I could come up with a smart
All
ass
right,
answer.
so we're back to MMA because you know when I first heard about you getting this color job with Bellator, which by the way starts this Friday, January 20th will be the fight card, and
Thank you
Frank
very
and I
much.
are going to be there. Yeah, it's a family
That's
affair.
it.
We're going. Our buddy Chael is fighting, and he
He'll
was
be
just
there,
on
right?
last week. Yeah,
He'll be
this
there.
this
Should be
is
there,
all
we hope.
awesome. Yeah. But you know, when I first heard about you doing this, apart from what we already talked about, which is all the expertise and everything, you also have great personality for this. So, I mean, you're an engaging guy. You know, is that something that you had? Because you were just talking about like testifying with police. Were you kind of always aware that I'm pretty good at conversation?
No, you know what? I can tell you it's funny because I talk about it with my wife and stuff. You know, what were you like in high school?
I was quiet.
So was I. You know, and I realized when I got past being a freshman, it's like, you know what? I need to start talking. And I can tell you, it's like, you know, I talk to people all the time and I say, man, you know, if I could go back to being 25, you know, would I do it? If I had to have the brain that I had when I was 25, no, I wouldn't. I would not want to change it because you've learned so much.
Yeah.
And that's part of your personality, you know. At 25, you know, as a police officer, I would go around and, you know, say, you know, hi to people, but I was pretty selective in who I would, you know, say it because, you know, you'd have to be, you know, really give me the smile. If you had a stern look, I just kind of give you that stare back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like that alpha male type thing that we all do. And as you
Well,
get,
if you're a bigger guy and you're quiet,
yeah,
that happened to me. First part of my career, I had a lot of people thought I was an asshole.
yeah,
It's just because I didn't talk a lot.
Yeah.
And then after being with Jennifer for so long, coming out of my shell, like, dude, I'll talk your ear off once we get to know each other. But if I don't know you, why would we? But then I'm like, oh, okay, well, that I can see now how that looks weird to people. So now I talk more and say, oh, you're a nice guy. It's like, yeah, well, I was a nice guy before, but, you know.
Sure.
If I'm quiet, you think I'm an asshole. But
That's it.
There's a lot of people who think, I wish I'd go back to thinking he's an asshole. This guy won't shut up now.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's it's
What's that?
it's a skill. I think a conversational skill that you never know how these things manifest itself. Because what I would imagine is, and tell me if I'm wrong, even back to the law enforcement days, is you were probably were you a pretty good mediator? Like in sort of diffusing tense situations when you encountered them.
Yeah,
I can see that.
I was always good at talking people into doing what I had a system that I used, and at the time it worked well for me. And my big thing was you give everybody respect.
Yeah.
If you're going to stop someone, talk to someone, whether it's you're just stopping them on the street or you're got a call and you got to deal with them, man, give everybody the respect they deserve. And I would, if I was going to ask, if I stopped you, I'd say, sir, could you do me a favor and please come over here and talk to me?
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly how I would have said it. And if you now the difference is when you look at me and you go, why?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm asking you, can you come over here now?
Mm-hmm.
Because I asked you, now I'm going to tell you, and then I'm going to make you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because there's reasons why I am stopping you. You may not know them, okay, or you do know them, and you're trying to negate that and try to figure your way out of this situation. I'm going to get away. And I understand what I need to do to keep myself safe in it. A lot of times police officers do, the one thing I learned from policing and what police officers do, you'll do things mechanically a certain way. When I say mechanics, there's mechanics to everything. There's mechanics to fighting. There's mechanics to being a referee. There's mechanics to being a police officer. And you do something time and time and time again because it helps keep you safe and other people safe. And it's the one thing that I learned is, I was as nice as I could be until you showed me you didn't respect me back.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
And that was just,
and I usually, if I ever,
personality clash.
right, and if I ever encountered that with police, because the thing is, I always knew that they were going to be disappointed. Like the
and that's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I look at. People, you get all these people that start they want to be confrontational when they really they haven't done anything. And you're right, you haven't done anything. So why are you creating something? You know that the officer's not going to be able to do anything with you. You know you haven't done anything wrong. So you've got that in your back pocket. It's perfect. So
Right.
be nice. And then you go in the end and say, hey, man, is there a reason why you stopped me just down there in this whole thing? You can always do that, but don't start it off with, why are you stopping me?
Right.
Because you're just creating that situation. Now the officer is going to look to try to put you in that position where they can write the ticket or take you away.
In the situations, if I ever encountered a police officer who, you know, I could tell was you know, not wanting to be respectful like that, I'd do the passive aggressive thing. So it would be like you said, I knew there's nothing to hide, but what I would start doing is when we're going through all the questions about, you know, do you have any drugs on you? Of course, I've never done a drug in my life. You know, alcohol, I've never drank alcohol in my life. I would start going into the backstory of that. You know, growing up, I just saw that there was a lot of alcoholism in my family. I made a point of one of two I wanted him to want to get out of there. Like, I was going to draw out that conversation, and maybe in the end,
But that's good.
get him thinking about how much he's drinking. Are you drinking more than 4 times a week? You know,
Absolutely.
this is something you might need to look at.
I told you about one time I've dealt with an asshole officer. Because, I mean, look, I'm the most polite guy in the world. Every time I get pulled over, I've never done that. Do you know who I am? Never. It's never happened in my life. It never will happen. One time I'm with the wife here, and we take a left-hand turn. And my wife's a little bit on the spicy side, right? And I do. The light turned red, and I went through it. You know what I mean? Like, as I'm going through it. Officer pulls me over. The guy gets out. He has like a 12-inch neck and like a 60-inch waist.
So, that's a good one.
I know where this is going, right? So I have my hands on the steering wheel. The guy goes like, you know, hey, the fuck were you thinking? I'm like, what? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I'm kind of like baffled by the, like, wait a minute, that's not how this is supposed to work. I say, officer, I have no weapons in the car, or you know, where it is. And you say, do you realize what you did? And I go, yes, I ran the red light, and you write me a ticket. You know, you ask for my ID, registration. Like, there's no reprimanding of this situation. But so I'm just sitting there like, oh, fuck, you're a dick. You're looking at me right now, and I'm the guy in high school that probably threw you in the fucking toilet, and this is your opportunity to get even. So I'm like, yes, officer, no officer. You know, just being as polite as he can be. And he's kind of a dick to the point to where Jennifer finally like leans over. It's like, do you not know who the fuck this is? You know, I'm like, oh God, I'm so now I just grab the steering wheel like, oh shit, that's bad. And then he goes, no, who are you? I'm all, nobody. No. So he walks back with my license registration. I look over at the wife and I'm like, look, if you say one fucking word, like, this guy's a dick. Let's not instigate him. You know what I mean?
I asked Frank, I don't remember what brought it up. I think we were about to start the podcast one night. Somebody was returning a phone call, a call he'd made for some customer service thing or whatever. He got on the phone and goes, yeah, hey, it's Frank Mir. I need you to look up my account or whatever. And the light bulb went off in my head, and I asked Frank, after he got off the phone, I said, all right, Frank, how much would it take? Again, if I just happen to have some discretionary income in my pocket, how much for a period of 1 year, okay, every time you answer the phone like that, you have to say, yeah, hey, it's Frank Mir, 2-time UFC heavyweight champion. You have to introduce yourself.
You don't have enough money.
Well, no, I think once I offered to pay all 3 of his kids' private school tuition, he goes, fuck, my wife would make me do it. That would be the best year ever. Just the phone would ring, and I'd just start rubbing this is going to be great.
Every time.
All right, so let's, let's touch real quickly just on a couple of news things here. I wanted to ask you guys your thoughts about, there is talk now of stripping Conor McGregor of the lightweight title. Dana is talking about the fact that Conor has said he may not fight again until September. Dana is trying to make Khabib Nurmagomedov and Tony Ferguson, and he says if Conor's not going to defend the title until September, then they'll strip the title and make Khabib and Tony for the actual title. Now, this plays into my, speaking of conspiracy theories, I don't have a conspiracy theory about OJ, but I do have one about Conor.
Yours is good.
Which is, I think what Conor is trying to do is to avoid the champion's extension clause. So what I think he would prefer, because he's become bigger than the belts now, I think he actually wants to get rid of the titles so that when his deal is up, he's the biggest star in sport, but he's not a champion tethered to a title. Does this advance my theory?
Absolutely. I think that's exactly what he's doing. I mean,
you like that, John?
Oh, dude. Well, first off, Conor has a lawyer named Mike Murch. He used to work.
Mike's his lawyer?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh, hello.
Shit.
So,
I like Mike too.
Mike's a good guy, And,
I don't think he likes the UFC.
I don't think he likes him now. He used to work for him.
Hmm.
He got fired. He's the one that actually got Conor his boxing license here in Nevada, set that all up, and look at, he knows the contracts very well.
Yeah, he does.
And so I don't think you're too far off. I think that they're going to end up stripping Conor. Conor has never. He's won the championships, and he's never defended. The only one that you can kind of say defended when he was the interim champion at featherweight when he beat Chad Mendes. Then he fought Jose Aldo,
Right.
and that's as close as you can say to defending. But he's never defended a title, and I'm not sure that he's going to. I think people have talked to him and said, "Hey, man, look at." You can make, he keeps on making all these remarks that he wants a piece. I want ownership, and look at, he's got enough power, because he's got power.
Yeah.
He has influence. He has people watching him. He absolutely is that needle mover. I mean, he spins the needle. And you've got to look at what he can do on his own. He can create that fight where now he's making, again, Floyd Mayweather type money when he made in that boxing in an MMA match, because it's not all going to a promoter.
And
I'm not saying you're far off.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Frank, you could explain the Champions Clause. You've been beholden to that.
Yeah, I mean, basically, if you have,
a
let's say, a 4-fight deal, 6-fight deal, whatever the deal is you have with the UFC, they learned their lesson with Josh Barnett. That basically, if you're the champion and your contract starts to come to an end, and you have 1 fight left, they usually renegotiate with everybody. And you negotiate. But if you were to sit there, no, I'm not going to renegotiate, I'm going to go fight another time, and you win, and now you're the champ, and you have no more contract, they have it to where now it automatically extends, because they got stuck in a situation with Barnett, who fought Randy Couture, but he was at the end of his contract. I guess they thought Barnett would lose. Barnett wins, and now he's a free agent with the heavyweight championship. The only thing that saved their ass on that point was that Josh Barnett tested positive for Winstrol. Had that not happened and they got the belt back, they'd had a kid that was basically like, you better fucking open up the checkbook. It's about to get heavy. And so...
or it's going to get lighter for them.
Yeah. And so that's what happened. So with Conor, whatever contract he has, every time he wins a fight, as long as he's the champ, that contract's extended. So they get to have it until he loses the belt, and then he can fight his last fight on the contract.
Yeah. One other quick one. Of course, we, since our last episode, Frank, because we were previewing the UFC St. Louis card, we went ahead and broke down the Uriah Hall, Vitor Belfort match.
Before, the other smart thing about that, because then other people can sit there and go, well, fight to the end of your, just sit out or call injury. See, now he could sit out right now and say, I'm available to fight. You guys don't have me a fight, and it doesn't extend the contract, right? Well, what do you have going? But if Conor goes, I blew out my back, I can't fight. Well, automatic extension of your contract till you're healthy.
Yeah, right. It's in perpetuity, right? Yeah, they got that base covered too. So in our UFC St. Louis preview, Frank, since we taped it and we were breaking down Uriah Hall and Vitor Belfort, Hall was not able to weigh in. Now he actually passed out on the way to the scales. Dana was critical of him, said that he's not taking it seriously, the weight cut, he's not taking his training, etc. He was out of the fight. Now Vitor Belfort was offered a couple of last-minute opponents. He passed on him because he wants another fight with Michael Bisping. It looks like that could happen, but Belfort also wants to get paid for the Uriah Hall fight. He feels like he should be paid for that because he was ready to make weight. What do you guys think?
Did Vitor Belfort do everything that was asked of him to get to the point of that fight?
Yes.
He did weigh in. Yes, he made weight. He got himself there, and then that fight was taken away. What the UFC is going to say is, we offered you another fight, and you didn't take it. And that's why they're saying, we're not going to pay you for that show money because we offered you another fight, and you said no.
I think he should be paid. I think that
absolutely
he showed up at everything what John's already leading up to, and he signed to fight Uriah Hall.
Exactly.
Uriah Hall wasn't there. Now, that's not the UFC's fault either. It's the price of doing business. You're a promoter. You make a lot of money what you're doing. That's just, you got to pay the show money.
The difference is when you're paying Vitor Belfort show money compared to paying Joe Blow show money. There's a big difference.
It's co-main event money.
But I didn't think that was up for debate. Every time I've been before, the Fertitas, during the Fertitta era.
Excuse me, what did you say? The Fertitas, who are they?
Yeah.
It is owned by WME.
It's a new day,
Again,
right?
No,
yeah.
that's what I'm
this
saying.
is
Yeah.
but this is the
No, but
difference
during the
between
Fertitta era,
Yeah.
fight
they would
people.
have paid him.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
They-
I see
they-
what you're saying.
I remember I was in England when I did the
Yeah.
fight. One of the fighters got the flu. He was going to fight anyways. Was it Gil Martinez?
Mhm.
Or Gil was
Not Melendez.
no,
No.
This is back further.
the guy Gil
Yeah.
was.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm picturing him right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Used to wear black and white shorts.
had the flu. I think he was fighting.
That's everybody now.
Whoever he
Black,
was
white,
opponent,
white.
I just remember.
Yeah.
I remember sitting there going, "Wow, that's pretty impressive."
Yeah.
He had like a 101 temperature. Screw it, I'm going to fight anyways. The doctor's like, "Well, I can't stop you from fighting."
Yeah.
The Fertittas are like, "Nah, you're done. You're not fighting." Paid him
Yeah.
and paid his opponent their show money. You're going,
Yeah.
okay, well, you know what? I'm not going to send you out there with the flu, man. I mean, hey, I
Mm-hmm.
appreciate that you were willing to do it, but no.
No, John's got a good point because it's, I have often thought that one of the most perplexing things for the Endeavor, they call themselves Endeavor now, the ownership group, their accountants must have been when they sat down to review the books before the purchase, and they looked at the salaries for Matt Hughes and Chuck Liddell, and they were going, now when will they be fighting again? Wait,
Yes.
what? They haven't fought in 4 or 5 years?
What do you mean they're not fighting?
They
What-
did, right.
Why are we paying them?
Right. They would not understand the value of no, we're keeping them as lifetime company men. That's the price of
Castillo.
making sure that they
Kill
you know.
Castillo. That's-
Yeah. And that was, so obviously if they're not going to
That's
comprehend
it from the Mrs. Mir.
if they're not going to comprehend something like that, then they're definitely not going to comprehend why would we pay somebody if they didn't fight exactly.
You know,
Yeah, but I mean, that's the thing that they,
here's what you really got to look at. When you again, this is when Frank is saying, well, Lorenzo, man, it's a different
It is.
mentality of that ownership group.
Mhm.
You know, I remember listening to a thing of you coming out saying, man, I asked, hey, I wanted them to talk to me about stuff because you had that whole thing with USADA, and no one was calling you back.
Mhm.
And I was like, God damn, man, that's just crazy. That you, a guy who has been part of that organization for that long, done as much as you have actually within that organization, you're a stable part of that, and no one's calling you back. Man, these guys don't get it. If Lorenzo was there, he would have called you. I know he would have called you. And you look and you go, that's the difference of what's going on now. But what they're looking at as a company now, and this is not Dana, this is WME IMG, they're looking at now all these weight cuts. How much is all of this weight cutting costing us as a promotion, just as far as main event, co-main event, the fights we're losing, they have lost millions upon millions upon millions of dollars based upon bad weight cuts. So what are you going to do about it? You are this company that if you're going to sit there and say that you don't know that you have a problem, that can easily, here's your lawyer stuff coming in.
Mm-hmm.
They're easily going to be proved, oh, you knew about it.
Right.
In
right.
fact, here's an incident, here's an incident, here's an incident. So what are you doing to fix it? Because what they're trying to do is run from it. They have, right now, you have people that are in that organization, especially your matchmakers, are going, I don't even want to hear about weight cutting because I have enough problem putting my matches together with the weight they're supposed to be at. The real thing is this. Look, unless it's a championship fight, what does it matter what someone's weighing? Okay? If they're a 145-pound fighter and they weigh in at 149 pounds and their opponent weighs in at 148 and a half, you have a competitive fight between two relatively even fighters that weigh the same amount. They don't weigh 145. So what? It doesn't matter. Your fight is going to be there. It's a good fight. Put it on your fight. It doesn't matter if they're hitting that. The only time it's going to matter when you hit that exact number is championship fight.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, title fight. That's your problem. But you can avoid a lot of this stuff that they're doing, and the athletic commissions need to get their act together, because this is a problem. We have had how many UFC fighters do I have to start naming their names of have fallen out and almost died, okay, with kidney failure? Why do we have MMA, boxing being just a small percentage of it, but MMA being this group of athletes? If you look at the NFL, you look at the NHL, you look at Major League Baseball, they all have all these nutritionists. They have these chefs that are on staff. They are cooking meals for their players and hydrating for top performance. And what do we do with ours? We tell them, we want you to starve and dehydrate yourself so you can perform well.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous They know what's going on. It's got to change. The mentality has got to change.
Well, actually, it was brought up last episode we talked about this. California's thinking about imposing a 10% rule where you have to be within 10%.
Oh, they've already done it. They've got what's called their 10-point plan.
I said it was stupid. I'm like, look, all you're going to have is guys cutting weight twice now. You know, guys cut weight to make a certain weight. Then the next day when they got to get on a scale again, they're going to cut weight that morning to make sure they're within the 10% or
They're going to intentionally not fully rehydrate.
they're going to
is what you're
intentionally not
saying.
fully
Yeah.
rehydrate. So then I'm like, well, then the whole plan itself is stupid. You're going to get guys now, they're going to be fighting dehydrated.
Yeah.
I don't get it. In high school, at the beginning of the wrestling season, we test kids what weight they're allowed to be at. So they get in there, they do the hydration test, they test their body fat. So you're told, like, okay, you're allowed to fight at this weight. It doesn't matter if you show up, if you do a hydration test, you're like, okay, you're a light heavyweight. You came in at 203. So you can fight in the 205 weight class. But they'll do that thing and find out, okay, the lightest you can humanly be is 210 before it's unhealthy. Well, guess what? You're going to be a very small heavyweight. You're not allowed to go to light heavyweight.
That's it.
Just say, hey, right off the bat, we're going to test you when you come into the organization. And that's, like, it's the easiest
That
thing.
is part of that 10-point plan.
Well, they are going to do that. That's smart.
Here's what they're doing.
That's what I can't figure out why that hadn't been done already. It's like, dude, just
Absolutely.
test guys out.
Part of their whole thing is, look at, we need to have guys, when they do their medicals, they're tested by a doctor. They do a hydration test, and the doctor says, this is the lowest you can be. Okay?
Problem solved. What else?
Well, hold on. So now the doctor says, this is the lowest you can be. So the lowest you can be is 157 pounds. That means you can't be a lightweight.
No, you're
Okay,
screwed.
you need to go up. Now, that was part of the reason the ABC went and put in more weight classes, because if you look at what is the actual unified rules now, the weight classes that are allowed are 125, 35, 45, 55, 65. They kept 170 in there because of the UFC, because they didn't want to take the title from Tyron and make him a 175er. They have a 175. So in the middle of this, you have 5-pound gaps, which is ridiculous, but 75, 85, 95, 205, 235, and heavyweight.
They have a 235 weight class?
Oh, yes, there is.
Shut the fuck up.
Okay? Now, this is there. And the reason they did it is because they want fighters to start getting closer to fighting what is their natural weight. This whole thing that everyone's gotten into, this, I want to be the bigger, stronger guy. I'm telling you right now, if you ask me, John, you can fight this guy who's super fast, or you can fight this guy who's super strong. I will fight the super strong guy every time.
Speed kills, man.
Speed kills, man. It is a problem. It absolutely becomes your nemesis when you can't get to somebody doing the things that you naturally have done and been successful for time and time again. And every time you make that step forward and he's gone, and then he's clipping you back, you realize, the strong guy is not my problem. He can grab a hold of me because that strength starts to diminish over a little bit of time. Speed doesn't really diminish. And guys have gotten in their head, I want to be the bigger, stronger guy. It's not about being, I've talked to a lot of fighters, and there's guys that are out there, Jorge Masvidal moved from 155 to 170. I talked to him and said, man, why are you killing yourself?
Robert Whittaker's the prime
Bingo!
example. The best
Bingo!
example. He lost there at 170.
170.
Lost to McDonald. Moves up to middleweight.
Kills
He's a
it.
fucking middleweight champ because he's fast. Even in the fight with Romero, they said, hey, what do you think's going to happen? I'm like, I think, and I said it before the fight, this is an awful fight for Romero because you have a guy who's going to be able to survive, grapple, and he's quick and he moves around. This isn't a
Speed kills.
Yeah.
And you look at
a lot of size. People now listening go, well, middleweights should just fight heavyweights. I'm like, well,
No,
you don't want to be that much of a size disparity because then you're going to get grabbed and just crushed. But you're right. If you're within 20 pounds of each other, the faster guy has a huge advantage.
man,
And he feels good. That's the thing I keep telling people.
exactly.
Feeling good matters for a lot. Like,
Man, when you walk in that cage and you feel like I have a gas tank and I feel good right now, you're a bad person to be in the cage with. Okay, because there's a lot of guys that are walking into that cage, man. Look at, they've been in the back, they're not feeling good, they feel down. It's like, I need to get out, get myself up in here, and they can't because their body's just not responding based upon what they had done 24 hours ago.
I feel pretty good about how this podcast went.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
No,
Feel pretty good.
hopefully, we can get John to come on a lot more until he
Yeah.
starts his own again.
Yeah. What
We're gonna steal him. It's like,
would you consider a return engagement?
absolutely.
All right, this was a
Talking with
lot
you
of
guys
fun.
is fun.
All right, this was like, tell everybody how they can follow you on social media, because I know I see you on Twitter and you answer questions back and forth.
Yeah.
You're really good at that.
Oh, dude, some of those questions are just horrible. But if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's Big John McCarthy. Well, I don't know if it's John McCarthy. John McCarthy MMA.
You do what I do. I gotta look at the life.
I think that's
What?
right. I think it's John
It's
McCarthy.
John McCarthy MMA, or at John McCarthy MMA, and on Instagram, I think it's Big John McCarthy. I don't know, but I'm terrible.
Let's put it this way: if you find an account and it's got 14 followers, that's not him.
Yeah.
Go with the one that's got
Got a
a
check mark.
large
I got like
number
3.
of followers. And speaking of listeners and social media, give a shout out to Devin and Christina that I saw over this weekend. I accomplished a weekend goal of being the only myself and Jennifer were the only 2 people in attendance at Marilyn Manson on Saturday night and Rich Little last night. I
You
surveyed
know
the
who Rich
crowd.
Little is?
Hell yes, dude.
See, I
I'm
don't
old.
He-
Hollywood
It
Square
might not
does
be his
that,
old-
man.
Yeah.
I am musically retarded.
Rich Little used to be on Johnny Carson
Yes.
all the time, man.
He's a world famous
Do you know who Rich
impressionist.
Little is?
He did
Just
See?
the piano.
no.
No, he's an
Oh.
impressionist.
Yeah.
He
Oh,
does
no,
all
I
the
don't know.
different voices and stuff like that.
But he was huge like in the 70s on the Tonight
huge.
Show.
Oh, okay.
And
huge.
I desperately
So
wanted
this
to
isn't
go
a bad
to
one
this.
that I don't know.
No, it's before your time. But the nice thing about my girlfriend's name is also Jennifer, and the funny thing about having Jennifer, at least I'm always the second youngest person in the crowd, because I mean we were breaking the curve by a lot last night. But Rich Little he must have done 24 impersonations, and I counted them up after we got home. 2 of those people are still alive. 2 out of the 24.
Man.
He opened his set with a Jack Benny
There
impersonation.
you go.
I was like, boy, this is setting the tone for the night. But anyway, I saw our
You're
listeners.
asking who Jack Benny is.
No clue.
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
No clue.
See that, dude? Jack Benny he was the Tonight Show before Johnny Carson and everything, but Jack Benny was always his age 39. He never got older than 39.
That's right, and he had Rochester, who always
Yeah.
had pies and them. See, John, you and I, we're
Yeah.
going to have a lot to talk
How old
about.
are you now?
I'm well, in actual years, I'm 47,
Okay.
but
I'm way older.
inside, I'm old.
Yeah.
I'm an old.
See, in
soul
actual
inside.
age, I'm 55. Inside, I'm about 87.
See there, I totally relate to
I'm
that.
broken.
Well, you know what? You're perfect for this podcast. Absolutely, Frank. Tell everybody how to follow us on social media.
Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Phone Booth Fighting. If you just want to follow us on Snapchat or Twitter, it's Phone Booth Fight.
All right, so this weekend we are road tripping to Bellator. That is going to be Saturday night with Chael Sonnen taking on Rampage Jackson. Of course, the main event for the welterweight title, Douglas Lima taking on Rory McDonald. You're going to hear Big John McCarthy making his color commentary debut along with Mike Goldberg. And you know what I thought we should do, Frank? Is we should do a road trip podcast, maybe from the room or something like that.
Yeah.
Because UFC is that same night, and I was thinking maybe we watch that on tape after we see Bellator live. Maybe do a little fight companion episode or
Yeah,
something like
good to
that.
see you, John.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah. All right. We'll
I
have,
get it.
we'll have a, you
There we
know
go.
where we'll be. I think we're all staying in the same hotel. So don't miss
You are
that
staying with
episode.
Angelo.
You want to tell everybody what you did?
Yeah.
Do you know our buddy Angelo, striking coach
Reyes,
of the Stars?
You come
Angelo
over and watch me
Reyes?
train with me. Angelo's an awesome guy. He has a good heart, but he just talks a lot sometimes. You know what I mean? So you
Let's
know,
role play it. You want to do it? Show John exactly what you did to me?
Hey, so I tell Richard, knowing that Angelo is going to go, and he's also my striking coach, so I kind of keep him. It'd be a good idea to have him there. So I'm like, hey, Rich, you thinking about going to Bellator this weekend?
Oh yeah, no, I'm
Next
going.
weekend at the time,
No,
yeah.
yeah, of course I'm going.
Yeah, it'd be good to go down and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
you get to drive down, like maybe get a room and shit,
Yeah, we can do that. Sure, no problem.
So do you mind if Angelo goes with you?
He did this the bait and switch where he's flying
Drop him
ahead.
right in there,
Yeah.
man.
Oh yeah.
He's already got me committed, to know. But here's the thing: Angelo is awesome. He's
No, he's a super
yeah.
warm guy. Like, I can leave my house and he can be there with my kids and I'm completely content and happy. He's just, you know what I mean? Like sometimes, like those quiet moments. Like we could sit there, we travel a lot. We're at the airport. There's times where we'll talk a ton. I'm talking to and there's times I'm just staring at the wall, just looking forward. You don't get those moments with Angelo.
I got it.
He's got a big personality.
You don't get those moments where you just get to be in your own head.
And he's listening right now too, so I'm making sure I'm on his good side. I got a 4.5 hour car ride with him. All right. Hey, John, seriously, thanks for coming on, man.
Hey,
Thank you for having me.
It was a lot of fun. Let me tell you, that OJ segment was every bit as good as I thought it was going to be. I've been looking forward to that. I don't know when you did that podcast 9 months ago or something.
Oh my God, no, that was like a couple of years.
Maybe it was, okay, back that far. But
Yeah.
as soon as I heard it, I was like, note to self. If I ever get John on our show, we got to have that conversation. All right. Thanks to everybody who's been a part of this one. Remember, phoneboothfighting.com is the website. And we'll see you right back here next time on Phone Booth Fighting. Thanks, guys.